I am 34-year-old and my husband, 32-year-old, found out about my bachelorette party. Just to preface this, I consider myself a good girl. Hence, I have always thought of myself as a good girl. Not in the performative, sanctimonious way, but in the quiet, unremarkable sense. I was the kid who followed rules without being told, who felt physical discomfort at the idea of disappointing people, who apologized even when I wasn't sure what I'd done wrong. I didn't rebel in high school. I didn't have a wild phase in college. I didn't collect stories that could make people laugh or gasp over cocktails. My life was tidy and predictable, a sequence of careful choices and safe routines. That's why writing this feels like trying to confess to a crime I don't recognize myself committing. It took me hours to even open a blank document the first time I tried to put it into words. I stared at the cursor, blinking like a pulse, accusing and patient at the same time. I typed a sentence, deleted it, typed another, closed the file. I told myself it was pointless, that dredging it up would only make it heavier. But the truth is, the weight was already there. It had been there for 4 years, lodged somewhere behind my ribs, quietly influencing how I breathed. What happened at my bachelorette party was uncharacteristic to the point of being surreal. Sometimes, even now, I think of it as something that happened to someone else. A stranger wearing my face. A woman with my name but none of my instincts. My best friend, my maid of honor, planned everything. We had known each other since we were 13, bonded first by shared classes and later by shared secrets, inside jokes, and the kind of loyalty you only build by growing up side by side. When she told me the plan, it sounded harmless. A party bus, a hotel room, a night of club hopping in the city. Most of our friends lived in the suburbs, so staying overnight made sense. It was practical, responsible. Even I told my fiancé all of this casually, over dinner, twirling pasta around my fork. He grinned, teased me about finally letting loose, told me I deserved it. Then he surprised me. He said awkwardly, half joking, half serious, that if I wanted a free pass for the night, he would understand. That it was my last night as an unmarried woman, and that he trusted me. I remember the heat rushing to my face, embarrassment and something close to anger colliding in my chest. I told him absolutely not. I asked how he could even suggest that. I reminded him that I didn't want that kind of life, that kind of relationship. He apologized immediately, said he hadn't meant to upset me, that he was just trying to be modern, supportive, relaxed. We laughed it off, but the idea lingered in the room longer than it should have. I didn't know then how cruelly ironic it would become. The night of the party started exactly the way it was supposed to. Music blaring on the bus, glitter and perfume in the air, plastic cups sloshing with cheap champagne. My friends screamed lyrics at each other, took photos, told me I was the most beautiful bride in the world. I felt light, buoyed by affection and alcohol, and the strangeness of being celebrated so openly. We went from club to club, dancing until my feet hurt, shouting over music, losing and finding each other in crowds. Some of the girls left early, getting rides home or deciding not to stay at the hotel after all. I barely noticed. Everything blurred into laughter and flashing lights and the constant dizzy feeling of being slightly off balance. By the time we reached the hotel room, I was drunk enough that the hallway carpet seemed to tilt under my shoes. My maid of honor was already in hostess mode, handing out drinks like party favors, urging everyone to keep the energy going. I remember sinking onto the edge of the bed, heels kicked off, head buzzing pleasantly. I thought we would drink a little more, gossip, maybe cry about the wedding, and then collapse into sleep. Philly. Instead, she clapped her hands and announced she had a surprise. I didn't understand what she meant until the knock came at the door. 2 men walked in. I knew immediately what they were there for, and my stomach tightened in a way that cut through the alcohol. I hadn't wanted strippers. I hadn't been told there would be strippers. If I had known, I would have said no. I was sure of that. Even now, I cling to that certainty. But certainty is fragile when you're drunk, surrounded by cheering friends, swept along by momentum you didn't create. Everyone laughed and shrieked and pushed me toward a chair. Someone put another drink in my hand. Someone else told me to relax, to have fun, to stop being so uptight. The room felt too loud, too bright, too fast. And then I stopped resisting. I tell myself it was the alcohol. I tell myself it was shock. I tell myself it was peer pressure. All of those things are true, but none of them erase the part where I didn't say no loudly enough. The part where I smiled, the part where I let myself be carried instead of standing still. The night fractured after that, memory breaking into soft, unreliable pieces. Music, laughter. My friend's voice in my ear, the smell of sweat and perfume and something sweet and artificial. Time stretched and folded in on itself. Girls left, one by one, waving and giggling, calling for rides. Eventually, it was just me, my maid of honor, and the 2 men. I remember offering them drinks, the thought forming sluggishly. As if hospitality were muscle memory that kicked in even when my mind was underwater. Someone produced weed. Someone littered. Smoke curled into the air, hazy and slow. Another man joined later. I don't even remember what he looked like when he first came in, only that it seemed normal at the time. Like adding another character to a dream already too strange to question. There are parts of what followed that I remember clearly, and parts that feel like they were edited by someone else. What I know is that at some point, the situation crossed a line so far from my usual life that it might as well have been on another planet. I was no longer the careful woman who color-coded her wedding planning binder. I was a body in a room, detached from its own history. When I woke up, my mouth tasted like metal and regret. I was naked on the couch, the room quiet in the way that only early morning is quiet. Then, even the walls seemed to be holding their breath. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I stared at the ceiling, trying to assemble myself. Then memory crashed in. It wasn't cinematic or dramatic. It was heavy and dull, like realizing you've been carrying a stone in your pocket all along and only just noticed the weight. I found my maid of honor in the bed, also naked, tangled in sheets that smelled like strangers. I woke her gently, my voice small, my hands shaking. What? What did we do last night? Her asked. It was half a joke, half a prayer. She laughed, groggy and unapologetic. Said she had recorded it. The word recorded sliced through me more sharply than anything else she could have said. She told me they had moved me to the couch afterward. She told me she had stayed. I begged her to delete everything. I don't remember the exact words, only the panic, the way my chest felt hollowed out, the certainty that if those images existed, I would never be free of them. She agreed. She showed me her phone, deleting files while I watched, my hands clenched so tightly my nails cut into my palms. I believed her. 4 days afterward, I existed in a fog of nausea and dread. I showered until my skin felt thin. I scrubbed my mouth, my hands, my thoughts. I rehearsed lies in my head, just in case. I decided I would never tell my fiancé. I decided I would bury it so deep that even I wouldn't be able to find it again. Then she gave me a flash drive. She said it was a gift. She said she had backed everything up. I think something in me broke quietly in that moment. Not loudly enough to scream or cry, just enough to fracture. I took the drive. I didn't know what else to do. I still have it. 4 years later. It sits in the back of a drawer, wrapped in a receipt like it's something fragile or radioactive. I have never opened it. I have never destroyed it. I don't know why. Maybe it feels like proof that I didn't imagine the worst night of my life. Maybe it feels like evidence against myself. I married my fiancé 3 months after that night. I smiled in photos. I said vows. I promised honesty while carrying the largest lie of my life, like a second spine. I told myself that not telling him was a kindness, that it would only hurt him, that it would change nothing except our happiness. Therapy helped me name things: shame, dissociation, trauma, misplaced loyalty. It helped me understand how easily people can be pushed into choices they would never make sober, alone, or safe. It didn't give me a time machine. I never told anyone. Until my best friend did. She told her husband while drunk. He told mine. I don't know what words he used or how much detail he gave. I only know the moment my husband confronted me, his face pale and unfamiliar, like a stranger wearing grief. I admitted it. Not everything. Not the video. Not the flash drive. Just enough. Now he is quiet. This is the man who cannot stay silent when he is angry, who debates loudly, who slams cabinets when frustrated, who talks with his hands and his whole body. His silence is more terrifying than any shouting match we have ever had. He sleeps on his side of the bed, turned away. He answers questions politely, distantly, as if we are co-workers instead of spouses. Sometimes I catch him looking at me like he's trying to reconcile 2 photographs of the same person that don't quite line up. I don't know if my marriage will survive this. I don't know if I deserve for it to. I only know that one night, 4 years ago, I stepped into a version of myself I don't recognize, and I have been living in the echo of that step ever since. And no matter how quietly I move now, the sound of it still follows me. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below.